Good Saturday morning. It's Don Pelayo checking in. Today's Saturday, May 17th. Today is my dad's birthday. I usually go to their home on Sunday, but I'll call them a little bit later, wish them a happy birthday. I'll see them tomorrow. But got a lot going on in the news. I don't know if you guys caught this. Yesterday after the market close, Moody's came out and downgraded the U.S. credit rating by one tick. Not a huge swing, but just a small little demotion. We got a little demotion on our credit rating, which means interest rates will probably go up. I imagine Monday the stock market's going to be a little irritable. So we'll see how that plays out on Monday. Um, I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. The general direction things are going with the U.S. economy, and this has been going on for decades. This is not a Trump thing. This is not even a Republican or Democrat thing. I think all of our politicians have allowed this to continue for at least I would say 40, 50 years. It's been like this. We let this debt just get out of control. Our spending is out of control. The government spending is out of control. Um, they the politicians are going to have to make some hard decisions. They're very uncomfortable making hard decisions because they just want to let the good times continue to roll, running up debt and spending, and let some other poor schmuck in the future worry about it. But we got to start thinking about the long-term health of this country. It's like these politicians don't want to face the music, and I think it's time we face the music. We got to get that turned around. The sooner we tackle it, the easier it's going to be to deal with. Um, we really have got to start standing up. I think that I think there's going to have to be some tough spending cuts. There's just going to have to be. We don't have a choice about it anymore. I do think we need to look at our military spending. I think Trump's trying to do some of that. I think Trump has been pretty good about keeping us out of additional conflicts, about trying to keep us out of uh, more Mideast adventures or whatever. He's trying to get along with the people over there as best we can. There's still some hot spots and some problem areas, but I think he's done a pretty good job about that, and that's something I've liked about the Trump administration. Um, Everything hasn't been perfect. One of my, people, I voted for Trump all three elections, but that doesn't mean I like everything he does. When we voted for Trump, and I've said this before, when we voted for Trump, we voted to have a president and a government, not just a president, but we want a government that is looking after the interests of the 50 U.S. states and territories. We need to focus on us for a while. Our government for years, for decades, as long as I can remember, they've just seemed so much more interested in what's going on internationally, globally. They want to get out on the global stage and have their little, be celebrities or something. I don't know. Um, we've got to start focusing on the home front, and we elect Trump for that reason. And almost the first thing that comes out of his mouth after he's elected, he's talking about Canada and Greenland, and it's like, wait a minute, what? And that for a Trump voter, that's frustrating. It's very frustrating because we want our government solely focused on fixing things here at home. That's what the average Trump voter is wanting. But it doesn't seem to matter who we elect. Our government just seems incapable of doing that for some reason. I don't understand it. You're elected to represent the American people and to improve things here in the United States. Stop worrying about Canada. Stop worrying about Greenland. Stop worrying. I mean, it's just but it's been like this almost since I've been alive. It's been like this, and I just don't get it. Richard Nixon went to China, and we're gonna get so wealthy, sending all, buying all this cheap stuff from the Chinese, and what happens? It backfired on us huge. I mean, yeah, we got a bunch of cheap crap, but we've basically built a powerful communist military, um, and it's just who are now our primary rivals in the world, and we've built that. The United States has built that brick by brick, and it's just absolutely frustrating as can be. But um, so I'm hoping Trump is, I haven't heard Trump say much about Canada recently. I haven't heard him say much about Greenland recently, but can we focus on the United States? That's what we want. That's what the Trump voters want. We want our government focused on fixing things here at home. Forget about Canada, forget about Greenland, forget about everything outside the borders of our country, and focus on the United States of America. I realize that there are certain crucial things that we need to import from overseas, rare earth minerals, and for some stupid reason we're 90% dependent on other countries for our medicines. I don't know. That doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me. Sorry for the French, but that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why? That to me is a national security risk. Being dependent on other nations for our medications, for our pharmaceutical supply, that's stupid. I mean, I'm sorry, it's stupid. And our government has allowed stupid stuff like this to go on for way too long. I feel like we should be able to make cars in the United States. I think Detroit could see a renaissance. We need to have a renaissance in Detroit, be building cars there in Detroit. There's no reason, if not Detroit, let's build them in lower cost states. Why couldn't we build these cars in Mississippi, and people in Mississippi and Alabama? These are some of the most depressed economies in the country. Why can't we open up factories in these states? I mean, I think is it Mercedes, or I think it's Mercedes or BMW have a big factories down there. But there's no reason we can't build these cars here in the United States. At least a bigger supply of them. Maybe not all of them. Maybe the lower end cars, the low cost cars for lower income people, they might have to be built, with cheaper labor, from international sources. But it's just, I feel like, take all these electronic gadgets out of the cars. They've intentionally put all these electronic gadgets in our cars just to drive the price up. Why can't we have machines, have like vehicles from the 60s and 70s that were actual machines, no computer. They didn't have microchips and microprocessors in there. We don't need all that crap in there. Just make a machine that can drive, that we're able to physically drive without any computers in it. Why can't we do that? Drive down the cost and make them here. Why can't we do that? I don't know. That's just my own common sense, I guess. But I don't know. There's so many things like this that just frustrate the living daylights out of me. Um, anyway, that's my opinion about all of that. I feel like we should be able to make these things here in the United States. If we made cars like we used to back in the 50s and 60s that didn't have any computer chips in them, we could make them here at a reasonable cost. My opinion. On to other things. We've had some pretty nasty weather in the South. My brother lives out in Arkansas. They had a pretty nasty storm yesterday. We had some thunderstorms this morning passing through, so it's kind of quiet out there now. So I think the worst of it is past. But I do worry about this everything that's going on with the economy right now. I think what I really want, the point I wanted to get to with all of that, I think more now than ever, it's important to really be diversified And when I say most people, when they think diversification, they think, well, I need to have large cap, mid cap, and small cap stocks. I need to have some international stocks. You need to look outside stocks. Right now I'm holding about 30% of my retirement money in ETFs that hold precious metals, that have gold and silver. I have gold and silver ETFs these are funds that actually hold physical bullion, and I've got 30% of my retirement portfolio in there right now. I've never had that high of a percentage in precious metals as I do right now. And I still own some stocks, but I've gone I have a work plan, a plan through my employer, and that is pretty much all solid growth stocks. But the bulk of my retirement money, I have it in an IRA, and that is almost solid blue chip dividend paying stocks and bullion. So that's where I'm at with things right now. All this technology, one of the things they'll say, if you ever listen to Dave Ramsey will tell you, well, the market has averaged a 12% return, historically. But the thing is, the market doesn't really have that long of a track record. People think it does, but not really. Before the 1930s, there was very little in terms of regulation of the securities markets. There really wasn't any rules in place. It was very wild west back then. In the early 1930s, they began passing some laws in order to regulate the securities markets after the Great Depression, after the crash of 1929. They began to pass regulations that to manage things. So when I look at the investment markets, I look from about maybe post World War II is probably a good place to look from, starting at the end of World War II to now. And one of the things if you look at the markets from about the end of World War II to about 1980, it didn't really explode. I mean, it was very modest growth during that period. It's only been since about the time of, exploding debts, where we've been running up debts, printing money like crazy, that you've seen the stock market run up. And technology, the computer generation really caused the stock market to explode as well. So really, you're only looking at about 40 years, really, of track record for the stock market. I mean, when I look at it, because that's really where all of this explosive growth has happened. It's like in the last 40 years. That's not a big track record, and I think right now we're probably going back into a time before the tech boom, where we had slower, more modest growth. So I think that it's going to become more important to be diversified in a lot of different things. I think you should have a portion of your portfolio in stocks. I'm not a big holder of bonds personally. I think that bonds are good in certain situations. I think if you're in retirement and you're trying to generate income from your investments, bonds can be a good fit. I'm not going to be in bonds until at least I retire, so I don't have any bonds in my portfolios. I would rather have the precious metal holdings than have bonds. Also, I think people should have. It'd be ideal to have the physical metals at home, having gold and silver bullion stashed away somewhere, either in a safe deposit box at the bank, in a home safe, something like that. That's the ideal. I do have some silver bullion at home, but I have those two ETFs in my IRA that the fund itself holds physical metal in a vault somewhere, but I think they hold it in London. Actually, I want to say it's held the gold is held in London, but I'm not positive about that. Anyway, but then, you worry about that with the ETFs. Well, what if an international crisis happens and governments decide to seize the metal? It's happened before. I mean, here in the United States, back in 1934, you had the United States government basically make it illegal for Americans to hold physical gold. They were only able to have a small bit, like for jewelry and things like that, but that was basically it. Um, and people had to turn their gold in. Of course, a lot of people didn't, and held it. But if you got caught with it, I mean, it was a pretty massive. It was a pretty major penalty. Um, so it's happened before. That's why I think I'm gonna probably. I've got this trip to Florida here in a few weeks. But when I get back from that trip, I'm going to begin stacking again. Probably going to be stacking silver. Gold's kind of expensive right now. It's about $3,300 per ounce. So gold's a little pricey. You can buy smaller denominations of gold, and I might pick up some. Um, but there is something called the gold silver ratio, and right now, historically, I think that gold silver ratio, I think has been 80 to 1. Has been the historical norm for gold to silver. The is it 80 to 1 or 8 to 1? I can't. No, I think it's been 80 to 1. I believe is what it is. So right now, gold's higher than that. It's about 100 to 1 right now for gold to silver ratio. So I think silver may be a little undervalued right now, and especially silver is highly used in different manufacturing processes, and all these cell phones and computers and everything have silver content in them. They're used for a lot of these things. So silver is needed for a lot more purposes. Gold is generally used for jewelry and for wealth storage. I think it is used in some other products, but not that much. Um, anyway, gold is scarcer than silver, so it makes sense. Although platinum and palladium are out there too, and they are actually scarcer than gold is. So, and gold is 3 times the cost of platinum and palladium, even though platinum and palladium are more rare. Gold is an easier metal to work with than platinum and palladium are. Platinum and palladium are both harder metals and harder to use in making jewelry and things like that. So that's the reason they say. But plus, just gold's historical value. It's gold has a historical value that goes way longer than stocks do. So, um, cryptocurrency. Some people are really into crypto. I think I have just a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin somewhere. I never really get. I dabbled with it a little bit, with crypto. I've never put any serious money into it, and I wouldn't, because to me, that is I don't know. Crypto is more about like gambling to me than anything. With stocks, you're buying a part of a business. You're buying a share of the income of the profits that business creates. With precious metals, you've got a physical, tangible commodity that can be used. Now I do have these ETFs, but I do know that my gold and silver is being held somewhere in a vault. Um, there is the off chance that a government will seize it, but I'm not too worried about that just yet. We'll see where things go over the next 10 years or so. It could be that things get more volatile. If I see things becoming more and more unwound, there's a chance, and I would hesitate to do this, but there's a chance that I just pull my money out of my IRA and I go and buy gold and silver with it. I know I would take a tax hit doing that. I already know. I'm full aware of the tax repercussions of that. But and there's other things too besides bullion. I think bullion is one of the first things we think about. But I think people need to be thinking in the back of their minds, at least keeping the idea. Maybe I should buy some extra food, put some food storage away. I've thought a lot about getting like a deep freezer. I just don't really have a place in this house to put a big storage freezer. I could put one in downstairs, but I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit more. I just worry a little bit about the energy. The energy sucked for that. But stack a bunch of meat in that freezer. I could. I also think tools, um, hand tools. I would even say like gardening implements, farm. Even maybe if you have the space, maybe even some farm implements. Um, I wouldn't think it'd be a bad idea to have a small tractor, some kind of some kind of implements that way. Um, I know that might sound a little out there to some people, but you start looking at the writing on the wall a little bit. The things aren't going very well in the United States right now, and it could change. And I'm hopeful it will change. Um, you know, I think we as Americans need to start looking for ways to become more entrepreneurial. We do have people that are starting businesses, but I think we need to back off trading because everything we buy, a lot of Americans anyway, we're always going to the big box stores. We're going to big grocery stores and supermarkets. We're going to Walmart. We're going to Target. I think we need to start trading more locally and among each other a little bit more, going to farmers markets, things like that. I think that would be beneficial for Americans to begin trading more locally, um, helping our local economies a little bit. Um, I think teaching kids to generate income. They can help grow vegetables, grow produce and sell it, or raise chickens or raise farm animals if you have the room. It's just a matter of having the space for all that. But I think we're going to have to get more skilled in creating and generating, an income for ourselves that way. I mean, sure, we need to have our primary jobs. We need to up our skills as best we can. Um, certainly there are high income jobs like doctors and some attorneys. Not all attorneys make a lot of money, but some of them do. Um, there's certainly a place for that high education type career path for the right person, but I don't think that's for everybody. And the truth is a lot of these jobs out here these days pay just enough to survive on, but not really enough to handle emergencies, not really enough to fix a roof or if something happens at your house, not enough to handle things like that, not enough to really significantly build wealth. So I think we're going to have to rely on our own abilities a little bit more in generating income and building wealth. One thing I would recommend to everybody, and especially young people who may see this, keep your expenses, your monthly payments as low as you possibly can. Um, I think that is crucial to building long term wealth, especially while you're young. Right now, especially like if you're living at home with your parents, I'm going to tell you what, I would be stacking like no tomorrow right now. If I was in that situation, I would be stacking cash as much as I could, investing those funds. You may want to look into buying, you may want to look at real estate. Although I think the real estate prices are a little inflated right now, I don't expect them to significantly drop from here, interest rates may come down. I think we may see interest rates drop over the course of the next couple of years. But I would be, if not buying something right now, I would be saving in the event that you can buy something, and you may not want to buy a single family home. You may want to buy like a duplex or maybe even larger, maybe a tri or a quadruplex, where you have 3 or 4 units in a building. You live in one of them and you rent the other three out. Now, you're going to have some money saved, not just to make the purchase of this building, but to fix things that happen, because if people are renting from you, you're expected to fix things. So you have to think about that. You have to think about the property taxes. You have to think about um, anything and everything that could go wrong. But that could put you in a very good situation long term, having other people paying you and helping pay that mortgage down, the mortgage that you have on the property down. And that could be an easy way to build some wealth. I don't think that's something for me at this point in my life. If I was 20, I'd be thinking that way, knowing what I know now. Um, but certainly you've got to keep your expenses down. For people, those cars, those fancy cars, they look pretty. But we've got people out here with 800, 1,200, even $2,000 a month car payments. It's insane. It's just absolutely insane, because those cars are just depreciating assets. They lose value, and it doesn't make any sense. You're gonna be poor your whole life doing that. So don't do it. don't do, yeah, when you can afford a car, when you have a sizable bank account, you've got investment real estate, you've got a stock portfolio, you've got that are generating income for you, that are putting money in your pocket every month in, month out, then you can start maybe down the road looking at a car like that. But for me, for myself, my vice is I like to travel. I've never been a big car enthusiast, so it's not a big deal to me. But I like to travel. I want to go back to Europe. I'm actually planning a trip in 5 years down the road. I'm going to take my 2 daughters to Spain, and I'm already starting to kind of plan that trip out a little bit. Um, but it's not cheap, for 3 people to take 3 people to Europe for a couple of weeks. It's probably going to be close to $10,000. So we're looking at a little hit. 10 G's is a lot of money for most people. um, so I'm planning on doing a nice trip for them, but I've got 5 years to save for it. So with 5 years, you just calculate how much I need to put away each month, each week. You can calculate it by the week. How much do I need to put in that account each week? I put it in there. 5 years from now, we got the money to go. But I have to hit my other financial goals too. I have goals for my emergency fund, how much money I have in my emergency fund. I have goals for how much I'm putting in my retirement accounts each month. I have goals for how much I'm putting into my kids' accounts each month. I'm wanting to buy another life insurance policy on myself. I have life insurance on myself right now, but that policy only has 7 more years. It was a term policy that I bought on myself back in 2012. It was a 20-year term policy. I would like to get a 30-year term. And I don't know. I may look at buying a permanent policy. I might. We'll just have to see. Permanent insurance is pretty expensive. I think it's expensive. But you know, Dave Ramsey preaches against whole life insurance a lot. He'll tell you to just get term, which can make a lot of sense unless you're wealthy. If you're rich, then I think it's kind of a different conversation, because there's tax advantages to permanent life insurance. And I guarantee you, Dave Ramsey's probably got some permanent life insurance, just for the cause of the tax side of things. He may not. I would be surprised if he didn't. But anyway, gosh, I've been going at half an hour already. Um, but yeah, I think I would like to get some life insurance, more life insurance on myself. My goal, one of my big goals for myself, is I want to leave each of my daughters at least $1 million when I die, when I croak. Now, I would like that to be $1 million in today's dollars. So you have to factor in inflation on that. So we're looking at, I'm probably going to need somewhere close to 5 million by the time I die. I've run a financial plan on myself at work where I've to figure all that out. Now some of that's going to be life insurance money, um, which is probably why I'm leaning towards term, because I can get a bigger death benefit. 30 years would cover me until, let's just say, age 79. I'll be real honest with you guys. I don't think I'm living to 80. I mean, I would love to say, yeah, I'll live to 80. I don't know about that. Sometimes I'm kind of like, I don't know. I mean, my my health numbers have gotten a lot better since I had bariatric surgery, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I feel tired. I do. I feel tired a lot. And it's like, I'll be 49 in August. Like the 50s are, headed this way, and that 40s went by like that. The 40s have gone by so fast. The 50s will probably go by even faster. And I don't know. My dad's 74 today, so there's a possibility I could live longer. But with the term premium, and there's part of me that's like, maybe instead of paying for life insurance, maybe I just invest that money. I'll have to look at it. I'll just have to look at it. And maybe what I'll do is get a 10-year term, because that would be fairly cheap, just in case something happens to me in my 50s. Get a 10-year term, and then the difference would just be investing, heavily. I'm gonna have to think about that, but we'll just see. We'll just see where we get. And anyway, I'm going to get up. I started cleaning my house this morning a little bit. It's not major. It's just that there's some clutter. I've just got to clean up some of the clutter, make my house look a little more tidy, because it doesn't look very tidy right now. I'm going to be honest. I work so much that it's just like, I do try to take care of making sure dishes are clean, things like that. But it's like laundry and notebooks and index cards and all my note taking and stuff. It's everywhere. Books, are everywhere. I just need to clean up a little bit, and I'm going to get that done today. I'm going to take a bunch of stuff to Goodwill tomorrow. I have a bunch of stuff that I can drop off to Goodwill, and yeah, just start minimizing a little bit. Anyway, you guys have a great day. I'm going to get to it, and I will talk to you again soon.